Stream is preparing. It's setting it up. And we're about to go live shortly. And here we are now on the YouTubes. And here we go. Hello. I always like Mrs. Doubtfire when I do that. Hi, I am James Lott Jr. This is Extra Connections Live, my special show that I'm doing these days. And my word for this year, my intention word is live. So I'm doing more live stuff. Even though I come from live, and I did a lot of live stuff before, but for some reason that something happened. But now we're back to live, Extra Connections Live, my show here on JLJ Media, which is my network, JLJ Media. Which, who's the owner? Me, James Lott Jr., which is JLJ Media. And I'm so excited to have a guest on here. This guy is an interviewing beast. You think I interview a lot of people? This man, I feel like it's an interview every day, all the time. I don't know what's going on with him. I see him getting notifications. According to Woods is his show. I was on his show. We had a great time. And I said, your turn. Tag, you're it. So you're coming to my show. I'm very happy. My friend and fellow Inglewoodian of sorts, Adam Woods.
Hello. What's good, party people? What's good? And what's good to the faithful James Lott Jr. Aficionados, because you guys are absolutely tremendous, and I thank you for having me here. Because in many ways, we were talking off air in terms of heritage and kind of honoring that. And for me, as somebody that is a content creator, podcaster, interviewer, whatever you want to call what we do, you were kind of blazing a trail, whether you knew it or not, because obviously, here in LA and other places, but especially LA, we're trying to, scratch and claw for our piece of the pie, our bit of relevance. But you were doing that. And did you know that you were carving out a path for an According to Woods, for Flobo Boys, for a Jack Farmer, and the rest of, the AfterBuzz crew? No, you didn't, but you did. And that I'm eternally grateful for, because, again, for you paving those paths and walking those roads, it made it that much easier for someone like me and others to do this.
I don't think that's very me. It's my show. Thank you for making me so nice to me. No, it's funny because I'm a worker bee. I'm Mr. Like, I'm in the trenches. I'm just like, I'm always creating something. Everybody knows it about me. I'm always creating something. And over the last couple of years, it's happened. I won an award, which is back there somewhere, 2 years ago, a Capital City Web Award. Now it's the beginning of this kind of like, you're a legend, you're a goat, you're this. And I'm like, no, I'm like me. I'm like, I've just been around I just celebrated 14 years in the business this week. Thank you. So, I guess they say just staying long enough, you're the last one standing, right?
Yeah.
But no, there are folks who told me that their podcast, they started because of me, because of the way I talked about it and how I said, I came into this business in my 40s. I was in my 40s, Adam. I was
You're
not
in your 40s now.
No, I'm in my 50s now. I'll be 50.
Balderdash. I call shenanigans. Shenanigans, I say.
No one believes me. I keep trying to tell them. I can show you my ID. I'll be 52 years old on Mother's Day. I'm 52. I'm 51. No one believes me.
Are you a May baby?
Yes, I am a Taurus.
May 7th. Good sir.
Oh my God, that's the gap in the teeth. And I'm like, oh my God, and you're a Taurus. I did not even know. Oh my God.
See? Insane.
That makes sense. That makes sense why we got along so well. It makes and why you're a hard worker too and talk. It makes sense. Yeah. But to answer, it was just kind of weird. People, you're I did a show because of you, or I did it because of you, and I knew that I was giving people chances on my shows. Thank you in the chat room. Thank you, everybody. I was giving people chances by showcasing people who weren't getting chances on other things. That was from the very beginning. I made it very clear. I'm not going to apologize for supporting Black people. I'm not going to apologize for supporting brown people. And if these people can't get on other shows, come on my show. And I had to fight a lot of people sometimes, some networks for that. And so I knew that part, that I was kind of doing that. But when people say, my show, the Bone Beautiful Podcast, because of you, James, you started your boat. I'm like, really? Because of me? Like, I'm so busy working, because I work all the time. I'm so busy working that it's a nice smile for me that I influence anybody. If you think I'm very flattered.
And it's weird, right? That influencer, that that euphemism is thrown a lot, are you thrown around way too often and what have you, without the actual genesis of the word, right? Someone who influences, their world and that of those around them, right? And that's what it's supposed to do, and it's kind of weird in these like kind of social media social experiments where, theoretically we were supposed to be like a village of 12 people. That's all of us human in our kind of like Cro-Magnon brain could kind of grasp, right? And then within a matter of like, I don't know, a couple hundred years. I mean, 250 years ago, there, were people using smoke signals, and we've gone through. Think about the way that we consume music, the way that we consume news, media, what news is, the validity and maybe non-validity of news and everything like that. Like how people just on a device that, I mean, if our ancestors, imagine if we took a cell phone back to, I don't know, the Salem and the Salem witch trials, we would be thrown in the bloody river with the rock and all that jazz, and let alone people of color that are educated. What?
I know, I know, I know. I also look at this because I'm in a business where age is very important to the business, not to us, but the media, the people who are in decision makers, they put a lot on age, and I've run across it many times clearly because or my friends who are well-meaning, like, well, James, you sure you want to do a dance song at 46? Like they would talk to me in a way that was like, are you sure? I'm like, why are you sure? I'm still alive. I still dance.
Yeah.
I'm in my 40s. Like I just felt that so interesting. And then there's also the other side of it where people praise you for being that old and doing stuff. And they say, look up to you. You've been around for a long time. So it's just weird for me. I'm at this weird time period in my life where I'm now the elder statesperson. I just got asked to do another this clubhouse, that big clubhouse thing on there. I'm on there to moderate something. Like, we love your work, and you be a moderator. I was like, I'm the elder statesman. I was the young ingenue at one point, the young boy in the field, and now I'm like the old man up the street. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know how that happened, but somehow it did. But I'm leaning into it. I'm not going to fight it. I'm leaning into it. And I love being around all you guys who are younger because you keep me young. You literally keep me young and keep me fresh, and just like I get energized by your energy. I know I got a lot of energy myself. I don't need any more. But I like you guys. I like that. I like that I have the, what's the word? I feel like the image is, according to Woods, is always on. I know it's not always on. I mean, I know you're not on 24/7, but that's the image I have, which is a good image. It's like, oh, this brother man is working. He's out there doing his craft, and honing his craft, practicing it, not just talking about it. So that for me is a very interesting thing. I mean, isn't image? I mean, of your friends or peers' work. Does that ever hit you too? Sometimes you look at people and go, "Wow, they're really doing some stuff."
Yeah, and that's weird too, because like a couple even fighters, right? Where I'll be at an event, and before it used to be, you know, essentially me going, "Hey, could I interview you?" To like right before they enter the cage, right? In MMA, where they're literally fighting for their lives, right? And in the middle of their like getting into their war mantra and they're about to head to the cage, they're like, "Woods, we're doing a podcast. I mean, we're doing an interview after this, right?" And literally, like the last event, amateur event that I covered at Commerce Casino, down here in LA, it was literally Jordan Azardia, who's a fighter out of Van Nuys, out of Saxon Muay Thai, and they've trained multiple world champions. But he basically said in the interview, he was like, you're on my vision board. I imagine the walk to the cage. I imagine the faces that are there with me. I imagine the referee raising my hand, the bell ringing, and then coming back here and doing an interview with you. And I was just like, and I mark out. I didn't know he was going to say
Right,
that,
right.
right? But I mean, theoretically, I have been in Jordan's life since his first amateur fight.
There you go. you go.
And that was actually the first event that I covered, you know? So it's just like, I don't know. And people are like, oh, legend. But then I see what you've done. I've seen what everybody on AfterBros has done in the MMA field. There's like Rafa Sparza. There's Donna Gonzalez with Matt Therapy. There's so many others. There's Rogan, right? He's the benchmark, right? That's it. So it's weird because like I came so much further, longer after them and you guys, that it's weird that people like I'm in the same respect. Even like when you emailed me for this, I was like, why would you want to interview me? Like I'm probably the least interesting person in like the 1,000,008, podcasts that you do each week.
That's your own self talking. Stop it. No, it's funny. I have people, it's a good challenge for me to have people go, you're like, how can you make me interesting in 45 minutes? Let me do. I'll make sure it's interesting. And then they're, oh my God, I know how to do this. No, but it's funny. No, you're right. You're in the trenches doing the work. It's amazing when you can have these moments where you were one of the first people to actually interview someone and their career goes on and they know you, they trust you, they recognize, they're like, oh yeah, it's Woods. Okay, I know I'll be good with him. I had two chicks that I did stuff with on soaps. They had been on for like maybe 5-7 years at this point. I asked the PR people, can I have them on my show? And they're like, oh, she answered yes. She goes, you were her first interview back in 2016. Like you were the first, so she remembered. And I tell people, if you do a good job and you're a nice person, people will remember you. They will remember that memory. They might remember everything about the interview itself, but they'll remember the memory. And that's what they go off of when they see your face or hear your name, go, oh, according to what? Oh yeah, I love that show. I'll go on there because nobody. For me, I come back on your show again. I loved your show. I had a great time. Like there are people that I know. There's shows I'll never go back to. There are shows I will never go back to. And there's guests I'll never have again on my show. I mean, I have no shade. I mean, I have shade. I have no shame in saying that. There are guests who I will never have back. But that's it's chemistry and stuff like that. But that's that. But I remember being on your show and I had a great time and I liked you. And I was like, oh, I'm on my show now. Now it's his turn to come on mine. Again, the Village. No, it's about the Village.
Yeah.
But I think, it's the memory, and so it's fun when someone reminds you were on my first. I was there. You were there in the beginning, so I have to follow them along as they go and be that person that they will always remember. I interviewed in Vogue 2 years ago. I have a history with them, so I just quickly and I told this on. You can watch the interview on Black Hollywood Live. Blah blah. I was on there. But 30 years ago. 32 years ago, I waited on them. I was 19 years old. They were opening for MC Hammer.
That's accurate. Yep.
Woo! And I saw that concert. And this is my show. I can do a tangent if I want to. This is my own show. MC Hammer, they talked shit about him back then. But now they're realizing he was ahead of the game also. The show was one of the best shows I've ever been to. It's like, there were girls dancing over here, and 5 boys over here dancing, and music over here. I mean, there was like something going on, and I was entertained for 2 hours. Like literally, I was entertained for 2 hours. I got my money's worth. And Vogue came out to open for them when they first came out. Of course, they were the bomb. They stayed at this hotel in Sacramento, California, of all places. That's where I lived. They stayed at a smaller hotel because it was less paparazzi and stuff. I waited on them for 3 days, and they gave me a good tip every day. They were really nice. And so then 10 years later, I ran into him again in San Francisco when I was living there at Virgin Megastore. Remember that place, Virgin Megastore? This one was on 4th and Market. It was the middle of downtown. It was huge. It was like 3 stories. I could live in there. I mean, even though I love my Tower Records is mine, also on Market Street. Yes. I did love my Virgin Megastore because I used to work across the street at Headlines. So I'll go over there. So they had a signing. And I walked up to them. This is when they had 3 of them. It was EV3. Oh, girl, man. She looked great. She was Lucy Pearl, whatever. Anyway, so I was like, ladies, I met you like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Oh my God. And they were really nice. So cut to 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago. And they was been told in Vogue needs to be interviewed for the new album, first album in like 15 years. I go, now I got to do the interview. So we did it. And I was able to tell them, you tipped me well 30-something years ago and you were so nice. I remember that moment. So it made me go, I will follow them and their career. They were so like, oh my God. I said, yeah, the for MC Hammer. Oh my God. We were laughing about that. But it's the feeling. It's the feeling that us as interviewers, hosts, reporters, that's how you get the scoops. That's how you get people to tell you things they don't tell anybody else. What's some of the greatest things you want to hear from somebody? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Or I've never told anybody this, but those are things you want to hear.
Yeah.
Every host that watches this show, everybody, those are the ones you want to hear, because they feel like they can tell you. And that's what, but it's the feeling. It's all about the feeling. It's not phony or anything. It's totally real. It's the feeling.
No, 1000%. And that's a fun one where, like, I guess if I had gone out for scoops more, I I would probably have advanced my career that much more, or at the very least expedited it, right? I would, where I am today, I probably would have been a year and a half ago, right? But the thing about it is, for me, when you're that close quarters with a lot of people, right? Not only do you know them, not only do you know their coaches, but you know their spouses and whatever. You're playing with their kids in between them getting their hand wraps or going to the ring and whatever. And I'm like, to me, I don't want to throw shade. I don't want to, spill tea, but what I will do, because when I wasn't watching pro wrestling as a kid and being enthralled by, the enigmatic characters that were, right, the Macho Mans and Bret Harts and what have you, I was watching 2020 with Barbara Walters and
Oh
Pete
yeah.
Downs,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
blah
yeah.
blah, right?
Oh, yeah. Baba.
And yes, and the thing about it was, I remember it didn't even have to be like the most enthralling story, but they made it so entertaining that I was gripped for a whole hour plus commercials, right? As a kid, as an elementary school kid, right? So for me, rather than the scoop, it's the story. It's the story because, much like how people play, I don't know, Pokemon or Pokemon Go and whatever. When I see people walking around, I'm all like, you have a story. You want to tell it? Let's do it. And it's funny because the According to Woods podcast, as it sounds right now, didn't exist pre-July 2020. Yeah. I mean, theoretically speaking, I started my career on Facebook and just going live at events that I either snuck into, the commission snuck me into, or I paid a ticket for. Right. So if I'm like, I got to justify it to the wife, I paid $25. I paid $100 for this ticket. I'm going to get something out of it. Right. So with that all being said, I got the credentials later and on all of that. But for me, I saw, especially when you're competing in whether it be MMA, boxing, pro wrestling. I mean, it's all the same, right? Like in terms of the physicality that it takes on your body, right? And we hear the horror stories. I mean, Mayhem Miller, look no further than that. He was on Bully Beatdown.
I used to watch that show all the time. I used to love
Right.
that show. I thought he was funny, and I watched it all the time. I'm like, he went down. He went down.
Yeah, I mean, literally, running naked through a church, letting off the fire
I
extinguisher.
know.
I mean, it's dark. War Machine that was in
Yeah, War Machine too. Okay, let's stop there for a second because now I can talk about this because I don't know other thing. I don't know about wrestling and all that stuff, but I know about MMA because I used to follow it like heavily. Okay, so did a whole War Machine, was it Jenna Jameson, that whole thing?
Oh, it was
No.
Chris. Oh no, Christy Mack. Christy Mack.
Christy Mack. And then Jenna Jameson had some weird stuff with Tito Ortiz. That's
yes,
what it was. Yeah, so boxer. So, but yes, first of all, what do you think is all the hits to the head? Do you think, I mean, is it almost like football? They say like football, so there's a lot of concussion stuff.
Yeah, no. And you could even go, to the Benoit tragedies, right? Where Chris Benoit essentially ended up, killing himself and murdering his wife. Right. And this is somebody who is, an elite athlete, right? I mean, if you look at how Chris Benoit looked, the week before he passed away, he was as physically fit as one would tell in terms of aesthetics, right? But when they they essentially did the whole the study of the brain and the CTE, the
Yeah.
traumatic brain injuries and what have you. He had the brain of a 70 or 80-year old dementia ridden female. It changed his gender, the amount of hits that he took to the head. Okay. So with that all being said, we're finding out more and more, whether in any contact sport. Hell, Billy Mays, take the contact, take the football, take the whatever away, right? Billy Mays, the OxyClean guy, right? The same day that Farrah Fawcett and Michael Jackson passed away, he essentially was on a plane, went to get his baggage, from the bin ahead of him. The thing hit him in the head. He thought he was fine, went to sleep, and never woke up again, right? So those are things that are, traumatic brain injuries. So for me, I want to get the study before the story of this person while they can still tell it, one, but I also want to hone in on things that people wouldn't know on a standard fight or MMA pro wrestling podcast. My podcast is According to Woods. It's everything, right? So if I interview a wrestler one day and a musician the other day, somebody from that wrestling that subscribed to the podcast will tune into that other one and try to cross pollinate to as many people, because, and I tell them, I I I when if somebody comes out and they're a good interview, right? I'm all like, you should be doing this. I know you've got your training and whatever, all that and whatever, but do this. I tell them exactly what I ad nauseum, what I do, what I use, the tutorials that I went through to get here and whatever. Because again, you can't depend on the promoter to, when Dana White is saying that this is not a career, it's an opportunity, right? That's what I mean. Literally, the UFC is the pinnacle of combat sports, right? I mean, even boxing can't hold a candle to the amount of press that essentially MMA gets and the UFC gets individually. But the pay isn't there, right? The pay isn't there. What boxers are get. Somebody rattled off on the last podcast that I did, Voodoo in the Woods, that some boxer got a $25 million contract. I had never heard of this boxer, and he's got $25 million.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy to me. So for me, I want to make sure that everybody has the most opportunities leaving the podcast, leaving the interaction with me as possible. Because again, you can't wait. Of course, your trainer is probably not going to tell you to start a podcast or a clothing line or take in sponsors or anything like that, because their money is in you fighting, you wrestling, you basically raising the prestige of that gym, right? And then your parents, like if you're someone that, let's say your parents are scholars, right? They're teachers, they're professors, whatever. They're not going to let you, they're not going to show you how to manage your money like somebody else that has walked the same path as you and taken the hits to the head, and they start a company or whatever, or start trading stocks or selling real estate, whatever that thing is, right? Like, they're not going to be able to show you like somebody that's walked that mile with you. So I want I want everybody to exhaust every opportunity that is given to them, whether that be sponsorship, whether that be podcast. I want people to, after them seeing, people seeing them on my podcast, I'm all like, hey, I've got a friend that's got a podcast. I've got this one. Here's somebody I suggest, because again, I want everybody to win. That's it. And I don't want anybody to win because like I will say, oh, I helped them there. No, because I had that my entire life, right? Where that was the crux. Anytime myself, my dad, my mom, my sister, we did something well, somebody would go like, oh, well, it's because I helped you 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you know, that time that nobody can bloody remember. I gave you that 25 cents. I bought you those hot Cheetos or whatever. Like, so for me, I don't want any credit. but I want you to win because you're in my community. You winning, being in my community, I have to raise my family in this community. And hopefully you consider yourself a part of that family, right? So we all have to exist in this. No matter how you voted, no matter who you choose as family, what orientation that you identify with, I can really give a shit. Are you cool? Fuck it, let's roll.
You know, you're very much like me. Obviously, it makes sense. You're a Taurus, right? The same philosophy. I came in comic. It's the same philosophy. I'm like, I have a friend who says we all win when we all win.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I love that very much. And again, I support. I was telling you off camera how I was send somebody to this person. You need somebody. I got someone over here. I mean, I always, you know, even in my other business, you just on a bunch of stuff that I want to touch on. So one of the things, my other business, I'm a professional organizer, and I've been that for 13 years, 12 years this week also. Super Organizer LLC, but I have in my obviously my Rolodex. That's how old I am. My Rolodex. I have a black barber, black electrician, all bonded, of course, a black plumber, black. I have a bunch of folks, black carpet maker. I have all these folks in my Rolodex. When someone says in my community, you know, a black like that. Yes, I got a black plumber. I'll send them right over. So I have that because I'm trying to lift them up too, because a lot of folks will go. I was to the white page this one time. They'll go online and look at whoever's the next time. I'm like, well, I have somebody actually who's good, and he's one of us, or you could be white. And I'm like, I have a good guy who could do this for you. Let him have the opportunity. I think it's very important to lift everyone up at the same time who are good and doing good work. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm harder on our people than anybody else. A lot of times too. I'm like, okay, come on, like, you know, come on, don't mess this up because this will make us all look bad.
Yeah.
But I'm very much like you. I just feel like everybody should have a chance. And like you, I have stretched my 15 minutes. I am stretching as long as I can. I'm gonna stretch that 15 minutes to now it's been 13, 14 years. I mean, I came in to the business going, okay, what else can I do? I like this, but what can I do with that? What can I do with that? And I, like you, just started finding other things and I call it blanketing. I blanket everything. And so to this point now, I have this little mini empire. I'm getting there. I'll be the next Tyler Perry or Byron Allen. I'll get there somewhere. I met Byron Allen. He gave me some good advice actually. I'm trying. I took these opportunities that came in front of me and said, okay, I'll try that. I don't do anything I don't want to do. I tell everybody all the time, don't do anything you don't want to do. If your gut trust your gut. Your gut says, don't do it. But if it sounds cool and kind of fun, why not? If it means interviewing somebody that's out of your wheelhouse and it sounds like very interesting to you, do it. Don't talk yourself out of it and say, well, I don't do politicians. Why not? Find an angle. No one's saying you have to do an exact political interview with this guy. Maybe it's a personal angle you can go on. Maybe he likes MMA. So you get this politician to talk about MMA, which is something different. Because you're, again, as you know this, in interviewing, you're always trying to find a different angle anyway, because there are 10,000 people. You're a black man number 2, I'm black man number 5. We've been out there forever. They have choices of galore. But what makes your work stand out, it might be just, like you said, back to your thing, the story. It might be, you pick a story that's something different from that. You know, and I think that's very important. So I love what you said, that I completely agree with that. But I'm like, we all have to help each other out. There's no competition. No. I know with black folks, I hate to sound so black tonight, but I'm black tonight. Black folks, a lot of times we were taught to be crabs in a barrel.
Yeah.
And there's that one slot right there for one black man. I say this all the time. Look at history when it comes to black comedians who get big.
Yeah.
Red Fox at one point, then he's down. Then you have Bill Cosby. Then he kind of goes lower down. Then you have Richard Pryor. I was going to say Richard Pryor. That's my man. I love him. So don't get me started. So we'll talk about him in a second. And then Richard Pryor goes down. Eddie Murphy. He goes down a little bit. Martin Lawrence. Good. And now we got Kevin Hart. Now they're looking at somebody else probably. I mean, I guess we let one through, and not 2 or 3 of them. Why not 4 or 5 of them? Why can't we have all of them be that big? They get through, but like the ones that are like, you know, A-list. And that bugs the S out of me. It just does. It just bugs me. I'm just like, why? So I told myself personally, I'm not going to do that. We're not competition. According to Woods, we're not competition. We're all peers trying to get some good content out there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and just a side note, that's why Harlem Nights for the time period that it covered and the time period that it was shot in, to have everybody and literally at the top of their game, Brett Fox, Eddie Murphy, like it's just incredible. It stands the test of time. But the no competition, right? I don't have competition. I don't want competition. I don't want a wheelhouse. Like I want to be able to talk to anybody about anything. Again, Josh Barnett, former UFC champion, that podcast, we talk pro wrestling and we go deep in the weeds with it, because that's what Josh Barnett wanted to do. So I'm happy to oblige, Jack, I mean, a spoiler alert, probably Tuesday morning, Flobo, Jack Farmer and I are going to, at first, I wanted to do a battle of like Phil Collins, because see, Phil Collins and Don Henley are so special to me, right? Because not only did they have amazing solo careers, Phil Collins, it speaks for himself, but most people don't know Don Henley. But if you know Boys of Summer, hell, if you watch the last episode of Friends and you're bawling your eyes out, that song is New York Minute, and that is Don Henley. But Don Henley.
Go ahead. I will jump in a second. Go ahead and finish your time.
But Don Henley was also the drummer of the Eagles, right? As was Phil Collins, was the drummer for Genesis, right? And all of the amazing work that they did. Genesis I found this out the other day where, all of the other members of Genesis, especially Pete Gabriel after he left, and started his solo career and what have you. Right. Phil was the last holdout to essentially have a solo career. He didn't want it. And he became the most successful,
So I got to jump in because that's my time period, first of all.
All right.
And here's a little factoid for you, according to Woods. Prince put out 1999, the song, right?
Yep.
In 1982, 83. So Studio is 1999, the same music at different speed. Mm-hmm. I'm not done. Don Henley's Sunset Strip is 1999 at a slower speed. Ooh. Take that and let me get the bell. Let me get the bell.
Bang.
Take that. Bang. So I'm telling you, when you said those two people, I was like, they also are connected that way. Oof. So that's something that you can take that into your talk or whatever. Yeah. For me, because I was a Linda Ronstadt fan, and that's where the Eagles came from. They were her backing band.
Her backing band, yep.
That's how it started. And then Phil Collins, of course. It was Phil Collins, Michael Mechanics, Peter Gabriel, a couple other people. They all went solo and then they all had hits. But Phil, of course, was the biggest. He's one of the few who actually stayed in the group. Yeah. And would have hits back and forth.
Yeah, Genesis, absolutely. If not for COVID, we would have saw another Genesis reunion world tour in 2020. Because that was on the cards. I saw him at the Forum, not too far from where you're at now, with my wife, the I'm Not Dead Yet tour, right? So that was, and it was kind of a sad, I would say a somber one. The Dodgers had lost the World Series, and that's how Phil began the night. And he was in a bad way. His back has been notoriously messed up. He broke his foot 2 weeks before that date. So he was like hobbling, and it's just like, I had built that up so much because I've seen Phil Collins live in Paris and all that, and him and, doing the Easy Lover with the one, American descendant.
Philip Bailey from Earth and Fire.
No, right. But the how do you say? He's got a guy in his band. That's a backup singer that he does the Easy Lover, deal. Yeah. And, they're almost singing to each other, but Phil's on a stool, up in front. And it was just like, whatever. But Phil's voice was still there. Those hits were still there. And again, I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. And prior to Phil Collins, that was like the greatest, concert that I'd ever seen live. so those two and um God, DeBar. No, yeah, it was DeBarge.
I know the barges. I know some of
Yeah.
them.
Okay, so that was it. And but going back to film, first off, Bruce Springsteen could play a 2-hour concert
Well, I
just by
saw him for
himself.
4 hours. I saw him at Born
Yeah,
USA. I saw that whole
yeah,
concert.
right. So Phil had more energy, more charisma, sitting on a stool, right? Singing those songs for 2.5 hours, right? Now, nothing against Mac Miller, but I saw, for me, especially as like not Mac Miller, Post Malone. Post Malone is the guy, right? Tattooed face, whatever. But he's a guy that actually, before his rap career, he was in a metal band, so he plays instruments. Do you know how many instruments Post Malone plays in live concert when his concert tickets are going for $80 a pop? Do
Yeah,
you know how many instruments and live surround other than just him on a microphone is there? None. None. He's just half high, half asleep in a he looks like a hobo. Again, not, if you're a fan of
I know who he
Post
was until
Malone,
recently. So
yeah,
I'm old, so I know who he was.
but
Yeah.
he looks like he's half asleep. He's got his microphone. You could barely. He almost reminds me of Julian Casablancas from The Strokes.
Oh
They
yeah.
they, they
Sure.
crapped on Julian because you couldn't see his mouth move. Well, Post Malone, you can't see his mouth move, but he's selling out arenas. So I mean, that's that. But even
Yeah.
still, Phil Collins on a stool is more charismatic than anybody. So I'm
It's
just
like,
saying.
so my favorite Don Henley song is "End of the Innocence," and
I love it.
I know it was co-written with Bruce Hornsby, which I was another
Yes,
fan of his,
and the range. Yep.
and the the Ray, all that other stuff. But I love "End of the Innocence." That song is so hauntingly beautiful. That's funny. I'm a huge Don Henley fan anyway, so that's why I know all this about him. My brother loves Phil Collins. I mean, I liked him, of course. I grew up with him, so I mean, I liked him. But my brother's a huge Phil Collins fan. But I will say that, well, my favorite concerts that were the most were Prince. That was my number one. He was the bomb. I mean, I've seen him 7 times, so I mean, he's
Did you go to that last run of?
of course.
Okay. How did you go to, like, several or just one or?
I went to I so okay. So let me recount all of them.
Okay.
I had to get permission from my parents in 1982. I was 13 years old to see Prince, Vanity Six, and the Time.
Damn.
And this was right before Prince got big. Prince was just on the cusp. Because 1999 came out, Lyric Corvette just hit MTV. He was just, so I was able to get a ticket really cheap. I saw him like at Hollywood Park. It's not even doing a concert anymore. And I got permission to go because it was supposed to be an R-rated show. I mean, it's so tame compared to, I mean, I look at it now, it was so tame. Never get the WAP song, it's very different. So that was the first time I saw him. Then I saw him for Purple Rain at the Forum, of course. He's in the bath with purple water coming down half naked. I remember that. And then I saw him for Sign of the Times. I saw him for Love Sexy.
Okay.
I saw him for Musicology.
Okay.
I saw him for he did a bunch of dates, which later became a thing called For One Night Only. He did little clubs, and he was in Sacramento. I didn't see him there. It was $75. $75. I saw him for then when he came to LA to save the Forum.
Yes.
It was the Night in America tour. I saw it like 3 times because it was like the tickets were $25. So I went the night he got mad at Kim Kardashian. I went the night she league open. I went the night Nick Acosta open. I mean, I went 3 nights for that, and then I saw him before he died.
Wow.
So I'm a huge Prince fan. I'm a huge Prince is like my number one, and he delivers and delivered every single time.
So funny thing about Prince, like, I didn't appreciate him until after he passed away. In total disclosure, and here's why. Right. So I grew up in a time where all of the girls that I liked Prince. Okay. So Prince was competition to me. Sorry. Yeah. So that's the thing that I didn't get it, but my dad is a musician, right? And funny enough, I found one of his cassettes on eBay for like $65.
I remember Touche for some weird reason. I
Yeah,
think I remember that. Yes.
yeah. So you know, I've always been a fan of live music. I can hear a song, and especially now with YouTube, as soon as I hear a song and it like hits my ear and I go straight to YouTube and I try to find a live version of it, right? If there isn't live instruments, I will that goes into the abyss. Like it's not even in my memory, right? So I that I think it was the Wednesday after Prince had passed away, and at Lucky Strike in Hollywood, at Hollywood and Highland, they actually had they would do what they call the backstage concerts, right? And it would be like every Wednesday, and literally like session people, that had played in live bands, like from Avril Lavigne to Vertical Horizon to like the bassist from In Excess. They would all just jam, right? So we had gone to a couple. My wife and I had gone to a couple beforehand, but she got the Wednesday right after Prince passed away, she got an email saying, "Hey, we're going to do a Prince tribute. We're turning backstage into a Prince tribute." And my goodness, that was the first time that I'd heard Prince's music live, right? And I sat there just like, what in the blue hell was I missing? Like that was it. And it's crazy because we had like Matt Scannell, the lead singer from Vertical Horizon. You had the bassist from In Excess. I think even who is it? Oh, Jeff Scott Soto, who was the singer for Yang May Malmsteen and one of the pre Arnel Pineda lead singers of Journey after Steve Perry, right? Never forget. But the fact that you had to get all of these different singers who are versatile in their own rights to sing his songs just show the virtuosity in terms of musicianship that Prince's voice was, right? Then to hear a, a literally a guitar legend like Billy Gibbons of one of my favorite three
ZZ Top.
pieces, right, of ZZ Top, saying that whole year before Prince passed away, he was trying to get the beginning interlude for When Doves Cry, and he had just finally nailed it. And then Prince passes away a couple days later. But that's Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, right? And I was just like, I missed it out. I totally missed out. Now, even funnier. Well, it's not funny, but when the show was over, right? I mean, it was hot. It was hot, whatever. When the show was over, it poured for like literally 3 minutes and then stopped.
Prince was there.
Yes, Prince was there,
I was there.
right?
Rain.
Then it's like 2 a.m. My wife and I were like, let's get something to eat. She's like, have you been to Mel's? I'm like, no. So we walk over to Mel's.
I love Sunset.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I love it. I love it. It's my place.
So we walk in, right? And I noticed this gal sitting with a group of whatever, but she's got this like awesome Guns N' Roses tie-dye shirt and whatever. And I was like, oh, I looked to my wife and like, oh, look at that chick shirt. That's so cool. Whatever, right? And then she gets up from like eating her fries, and I look at her and I was like, I know her. And her dad is from Indiana and a musician, much like mine. Well, that girl was Paris Jackson, Michael Jackson's daughter. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love her.
Yeah. So, so we're eating and whatever before they get up to leave. And I'm a ham. Like, there's no like, oh, I saw them and I didn't get an autograph. I didn't talk to them.
I'm the same way.
So I'm like, hey, that's a really cool shirt, or whatever. And then she pulls down her lip like that, and she had GNR tattooed on her lip. And she does that like right in front of me. I was like, oh, we're friends now, right? And I was like, that's so cool. I'm Adam. I'm Paris. It's like, I know.
I know who you
I
is.
know.
Girl, I know who you is.
And I was like, like, thank you for your dad and his music and everything. My dad was, And I was like, my dad was a musician too, and she was like, that's so cool. Like, where's he from? And I go, Indiana. She's like, mine too. I'm like, I
I
know.
know. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, I know. That's kind of cute, though. It's kind of cute. You're like,
Yeah,
yeah, I do.
and I mean, she was like the coolest gal. We take a picture, and she's all like rockered out and everything. So, like in the Instagram feeds, you'll find it. It's there. This is not hyperbole, but yeah, that was cool.
I, yeah. I will give my Latoya Jackson story. I got to meet her, and I know what I was going to expect. So Millions of Milkshakes had an opening, and she had a flavor that she was of a shake
Of
there in
course, you
West
did.
Hollywood. Of course she did. And so I was there, and I ended up staying next to her at some point. I'm like, I said, "You're Latoya Jackson." That's always my thing. You're Latoya Jackson. She's like, "Yes, I am." And we talked for about 20 minutes.
Mhm.
And I'll say this: she was completely normal.
Yeah,
So I know she had some weird stuff in the '80s happen or whatever, but she was super, super, super nice. I saw Prince Jackson in Culver City, no, Marina Del Rey. We were both at some burger place, and he walked by, and I was like, "That's Prince Jackson." It was just so weird. Like, he was just like right there, and we didn't get to say hi to him because he left as we were kind of coming in, looking at our burgers. I was like, "That's Prince Jackson, some probably one of his cousins or whatever." I know some of the DeBarges. I know Christinia. I know Mike. I know some of the DeBarges. They're friends of mine. So it's funny. You're right. So it's funny when you see them, people you grew up with, the families you grew up with, their parents or uncles or aunts. I mean, Jacksons were the first family. I mean, they're the first family, so to speak, for
yeah.
us. I grew up with a cartoon as a kid in the '70s. I had a throat just like they did. I mean, it was like I saw Michael live for the Victory Tour in '84.
Oh,
I was a concert going fool. I mean, that year. Okay, so let me tell you something. Okay, that year I saw Wham America
yeah.
with Shaka Khan as the opener.
What?
Shaka Khan, that song was big at the time. So they were at Hollywood Park, literally at Hollywood Park. So it was Wham with Shaka Khan's the opener, and it was the bomb. I saw Culture Club, the bomb. I saw Prince, the bomb. And I mean, that year, just there was so much good concerts. I saw Duran Duran that year. I was a Duranie. I was a big Duranie that year. I saw so much good live, and then we got to '85, and I saw Bruce Springsteen at the Coliseum, 90,000 people, 4 hours. My father got us free tickets. He worked for the Senate. My best friend Brian. I was in high school, and I liked him, but I wasn't sure. I mean, I just like, okay. And I really was entertained for 4 hours. I was literally entertained. Yeah, a lot of great songs, of course. He did a couple of cover versions of songs that he did, like Fire and Blinded by the Light. He did his versions of those. So it
Hmm.
was very cool to see this guy really get up there and just like command an audience. I was in awe of that. I was just like, these people, like Prince and them, they command an audience. They're right there, and like you said, they can be standing, they can be sitting. It's funny. I saw Mariah Carey a few years ago. I saw her on a good night. Apparently,
Me too.
her voice was decent, but she just stands there. So it's kind of funny. I mean, I like her, and I enjoy her music, but I could have stayed home.
Yeah.
I could have stayed. I just listened to her sing her songs. It was just like I wasn't that impressed. I'm an old school concert goer. I mean, I would go to concerts. My first concert was Earth, Wind and Fire. That's my
Whoa.
first concert. It was all Egyptian art, lots of froze.
Yeah.
I remember that. So I had a big beginning coming from that, and then going from there. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw Blondie. I was seeing concerts all the time. But being in LA was such a great time to be in
Yep.
LA. And then when I got older, I was a latchkey kid, of course, the '80s. That we go to concerts and walk home or whatever. I mean, my parents, they were busy working. They didn't care, I guess. We were a group. We took care of ourselves. And then I worked at Music Plus Records
Wow.
in
Remember
the
that?
'80s, Ladera Heights.
Yep.
And I'm part of a group on Facebook. It's a Facebook group of us, and we're on there reminiscing. It's kind of weird. But we used to get free tickets all the time to concerts because the companies would send us that, labels would send us that. I hung out where I shouldn't have. Thank God there's no social media. I was in a Sunset Strip from like '84 to '87. I mean, I was on there. I mean, I was way underage. Did not matter with my sisters. I mean, going on there, my brother, and hanging out after work, getting into the whiskey and the rainbow and all that, just
Oh my
seeing.
God.
and Madame Wong's West, and seeing all these people perform. I saw early Guns N' Roses, saw LA Guns, Motley Crue, Warrant. We were friends with Warrant. I was a total hair metal on one side, but then I come back to the hood, and I go to see Uncle Jam. Uncle Jam's Army had all these concerts. I saw World Class Wrecking Crew. I mean, so when I got to interview Alonzo Williams like 30 years later, and I was like, I was at your concert with Dr. Dre back in the day. It was a really big full circle moment for me.
Yeah.
I never thought that a lot of these people that I watched, I actually interviewed later. Like there's this whole hip hop group, Egyptian Lover and Nucleus, and I know all those guys now. I know I've interviewed half of them. I know all of them. It's just a strange thing. Like, but I was like, what was it called? Hip hop. It was just rap. It was rap, techno, kind of called it back then. On one end, then I was like hair metal with my work group certain nights of the week. But then also because I was into Latinos, I'm part Latino, of course, but I was in Latinos, Florentine Gardens, all the high energy music. Lisa, Connie, Trenier. I mean, I was called the group hopper in high school. Especially at Inglewood High School, I was called the group hopper. I hung out with the stoners, the surfers, the volleyball players, the jocks. I hung out with everybody. The gang, I knew the gangsters. I knew everybody. I wasn't part of one group.
Yeah.
And that actually has served me well now, I think. What were you like in high school? What were you like in high school?
Man, I was I was part loner, part cadork, part fat kid. That yeah, I mean, it's so weird. So essentially, I went to Crozier middle school, right, and all my friends were in the band, right, and I essentially thought about joining the band at Inglewood High, and it didn't really click with me. Like I couldn't play music. I just even still, 20 some odd years later, I don't have the wherewithal to just sit there, learn notes. I want to Ace Frehley, look, have like, pyros coming out of my guitar, look cool, and leave. That's it. Pete Townsend, windmill, and I'm out. I'm good. Right?
Right.
I'm good. Right. So I got into ROTC, and for whatever reason, I was like the militant kid, right? Like I like Rage Against the Machine. I like kind of like starting. I like static situations, right? And for whatever reason, I stuck around ROTC. And I remember you speak at Hollywood Park. You're talking to a guy who did snow day at Hollywood Park in a Class A Army ROTC uniform with padded leather shoes with no grips, where essentially everybody who is a parent that brought their kids to snow day at Hollywood Park with the ice on the infield, well, it was their day off. They were like, oh, guess what? The little green men, they'll handle our kids. And essentially, Hollywood Park would have these big mountains of snow, right? They would have these big mountains of snow, shave ice or what have you. And they would have these kids sled down, inner city kids sled down and whatever. It's supposed to be a feel-good moment for all, right? It's supposed to be, except for the little green men and women that were there. Because essentially they had us positioned, like some of us would be positioned at the end of the snow, right, to catch essentially projectiles, 80-pound projectiles going 70 miles an hour at us. And again, I mentioned that we had padded leather shoes with no grips, right? And the only thing that kept us from meeting certain death and landing in like the infield of Hollywood Park where the horses go was two hay bales. That's it, right? So we're either that, right? Or if mommy wanted to get a picture of little Susie coming down or whatever, and little Susie didn't want to go, we were tasked to take little Susie, little Johnny, little Julio, and whatever, and sit with them as we project out and literally bowled out our other cadets, which was fun. That was amazing. But again, I mean, snot would be frozen to their nose. It was just like whatever. The last year that we did, and I think it was my senior year, it's actually a cool story because I mean, we did all of that for a hot dog and a soda. That was it. Hot dog and cocoa, right? We got a little meal ticket
Yeah.
and everything like that. But that year, the MC was a guy that played Hal on Malcolm in the Middle, the father. That guy,
Oh,
Bryan
yeah,
Cranston.
Bryan Cranston, yeah.
Yeah, so he and his wife were there and everything. Couldn't have been more nice. But it looked like the bar scene out of Star Wars. Like we were all just dilapidated and whatever. He took so pity from us. He told the people that were working at Hollywood Park, doling out hot dogs and all that. He told them to stand back, and he and his wife basically served 300 of us ROTC cadets hot dogs and hot chocolate. So
Wow.
the success that he ended up having with Breaking Bad and now that Showtime show on, like good for him because he's a really good dude. Really good dude.
See, it's again, you remember that, you remember the kindness part. It goes
Yeah.
back to that all the time. It's like there's a reason why he's been working constantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously a reason, right? You know what I mean? I think I'm sure he's probably a nice guy on set too. Right? He's still probably a nice guy everywhere.
100%, but that's the thing. So I was a goofy kid, man. I don't think I've ever really grown up. I like wrestling, like music, I like talking. So I just kind of figured it out where I'm just doing all of that.
That's smart. How can I keep my childhood going and maybe make a career out of it? Sure,
I
why
got
not?
fingers and stuff.
Oh my
Like
God.
that's
Okay, you're talking to a guy who has 3 Grogu's over here, so I can't say shit about anything.
right.
Yeah,
I'm
3
just saying.
Grogu's, and I have a unicorn. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
I think it's apropos. I'm just saying.
well, actually, I should show you this. My granddaughter made this for me with Teletubby. Papa Jamie #1.
Aww.
It's Teletubby kids. Remember Teletubbies?
Yes.
So it's just by my
Tinky
desk.
Winky, Tipsy, Poe, right?
Oh yes.
There was a fourth one, I want to say.
Yeah, I can't remember one, but it sits by my desk. But I was like, yeah, I got toys everywhere. But I got toys everywhere. There's things going on everywhere, and a button. Why not? Why not have one? But no, I mean, I'm gonna. A friend of mine who passed away, and he had a funeral yesterday. I couldn't go to because of COVID. Shabadu Quinones, he played Shabadu in the Breaking films. He's a really good friend of mine. He always said to me, I said, how do you dance every day? How do you, yes, of course, when you dance, you keep work out that muscle, but also eat really clean. But he said, I remember the kid in me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started dancing as a kid, I remember how much I enjoyed it. So I haven't forgotten that. And so you just said the kid thing, and that's what I'm learning. It's like my kid-like curiosity, my kid-like sense of humor, my kid-like silliness. All that's going to serve me well now as I enter my golden years. So keep me going, and same for you too. I think that's what it is. It's like once you feel old and stuffy, then you just wither and die. I guess that you just wither and die. There's nothing. I mean, what do? I mean, I have friends who are my age and they are so old.
Yeah.
They're older than my mother. My mother's not that old. I mean, they're so old. And I'm like, we're the same age? And I'm like, I didn't understand. And they look like I'm crazy. They're just like, you're just like some crazy person.
Yeah, I saw a picture of one of my friends that, he went to Inglewood High, but I think he moved to the South. Yeah, somewhere in the South, right before graduation and what have you. But seeing him now, and I showed a picture to my wife, and I'm like, we're the same age. We're the same. And she was like, no. I was like, no, we were. And I was like, ask my sister, and she asked, my sister the name of the person, and it's like, yeah, he stayed with us for a week, whatever. It's like, yeah, so. That person's...
I do look and go, wow, I do look good for my age. Because I went to Lott Jr. I didn't go to Crozier. Okay. I was the first class that made the 7th, 8th grade. So we made it further. Nice. So I don't want to go to Crozier. I don't go there. I didn't want to go to Inglewood High School either. I wanted to go to Westchester, but that was no story.
I went to Orville Wright for a little bit.
Right, yes. I went to Centinela first. It was Centinela, then Lott Jr., then straight to Inglewood. But I have some friends. I'm like, they must have lived hard. Because I don't know. I drink lots of water. That helps. I know I drink all the time, lots of water. But I'm like, they must have lived hard. I'm like, ooh, yikes. That's the thing. I'm gonna change the whole subject.
Okay.
What's it like being married?
Great. Um, I and it's funny. So I met my wife. Talk about like I had this idea that I would meet somebody in Inglewood, high school sweetheart, and
Oh,
whatever. You
okay.
know, I guess. Uh, Truth be told, right? American descendant of slaves on my dad's side, Polynesian on my or Melanesian on my mom's side, right? And we had I had members in my family that were like serial womanizers, right? And then when I got to school, even from Crozier on to Inglewood High, go to that party that my parents told me not to go to, right? But my friends went to that party and they were talking about that girl and whatever, and they took pictures at Inglewood swap meet and everything like that. It's a couple pose at the background and everything or whatever. And then Friday she's pregnant. And they
Oh,
got both got to drop out of school and whatever, right? And then there was even a deal at Crozier where we had sex ed, right? And seventh grade, I'm like, oh, please sign this because it says we're gonna see nudity. I'm like, yeah, great. So I get to see nudity pictures with girls in my class and whatever, and this is gonna be great, right? And then the two gals that are basically uh, running the thing were two co-eds from UCLA, which weren't too much older than us, within 6 years, right? And they might have been in a relationship, and they were not bad looking. So we're like, yeah, this is going to be great, right? And then the first slide, and this dates it, right? First slide that they put on the overhead projector was essentially one's genitalia with wings. And James Lott, I crap you not, I'm sitting on the chair at 245 pounds at that point, and I was sitting on the chair and I fainted. But I'm rotund, right? I faint, and the dang desk, the school desk, goes in backflips and hits me square in the head, bringing me to.
yeah.
But the projection's still out. And again, whether it be my family, whether it be the getting pregnant, or whether the thing with gills that shouldn't have it, I just was like, yeah, I was almost when Ferris Bueller told Cameron he's probably gonna get with the first gal that gives him some and whatever. I was like, that's not a bad idea. Like whatever. It ended up being the second one, but I mean, even still, right? So I met my wife at Chili's on Century when they opened it. I was actually, and this is funny.
I know what that is.
So
Yeah.
I was a host at the Chili's on Century when it first opened, as was my wife, right?
Wow.
We were both supposed to not even work there. She basically called in a favor from somebody that she knew. They had already hired people for the host jobs that we were supposed to occupy. And she had a favor pulled. My mom was dating the city planner, and she was working for City Hall in itself, right? And they needed their liquor license. That's why this guy got hired as a host. Yeah, right? So we met at Chili's, right? Now she's not from Inglewood. She grew up in Bakersfield, was born in Delano, but I mean, we met in Inglewood, and Inglewood is, a very, very. I mean, it means so much, even more, all these years later. But being married, right? Being married, have kids. I'm a grandfather. I'm a grandfather. Crazy enough, right?
So am I. So I
Yeah,
know. So am I. Yes.
but those are things that people said that, oh, you can't make it, you have a family, you get what, and use it as a crux or an explanation for you not making it to wherever you're supposed to get to. So almost in defiance, right? This is my inner rage against the machine. No, I'm going to basically absorb myself in domesticality and still be,
Of course.
I guess, some semblance of rock star,
Of course.
and be good with it, and even still, going back to Phil Collins, right? Of all, Nicholas Collins was essentially, playing the drums for his dad on that leg of the tour and everything like that. And out of all of the stuff that Phil had done, right? All the Genesis stuff, all of his solo stuff. Do you know how many songs that Nicholas Collins that actually has a paid role in the band and has to learn the songs of? You know how many songs of those two amazing catalogs that Nicholas likes? You know how many there are? Just one. Just one. An obscure Genesis tracks from 78, right? So even Phil Collins couldn't be cool. I mean, his daughter is Lily. He's now just Lily Collins' dad,
Right,
which is
right,
crazy
right,
to me,
right,
right?
right,
So
right.
that's my thing. Like, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Marry, kids, grandbaby. I love it. I prefer my kid, grandbaby to call me grandpa, and they're like, you don't.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I'm Papa Jamie. Sorry, they have
okay,
slid. They have slid and call me grandpa. I'm a grandfather, almost 4. So I'm
okay,
like, I'm just like, no, my grandfather was, that's him, that guy over there. I'm Papa Jamie because I'm still
yeah,
youthful. So I did
yeah.
get that.
No, but see, that's the thing. It's like I'm useful. I don't care what you call me. And actually, I mean, to give a little bit of context, I call them my older children, right? But my kids came into our relationship with 3 children. 12, 9, 7. Now they're 27, 27,
Wait a minute, how
24.
old are you?
Oh, I'm a reverse Benjamin Button. I'll never tell.
Okay, no,
But
because earlier, okay, folks, okay, screw all this.
okay,
So before we came on the show, I let him
okay.
know that I was in my 50s. He was like, "What?"
Mhm.
And I'm thinking you're like way younger than I. So wait,
Okay.
I didn't know you in high school. Clearly, I didn't know you're younger than me. Obviously, I didn't know you in high school. I know. I don't think. I look at my yearbooks. I don't think you were there when I was there. I was there because I was there from '83 to '87. I don't think you were there yet.
I don't think I was born there.
Mm.
I was just saying. No, I mean, and it's no slight because
Black
you
don't
look,
crack. I'm saying black don't
yeah,
crack. Clearly,
you
I'm like,
you look you look no
I
older
get late
than the
30s.
35 years
Yeah.
that I actually am.
I
Yeah,
get 30s. I get 30s.
yeah,
And I got good. My mother looks really good. Good genes. I'm just like her. I'm a twin. So,
yeah.
but no, but I'm like you. I'm like, okay, no, this is fact. I know you're a grandfather. I knew you had kids, but I know you're a grandfather.
Yeah.
This is like I can actually talk to you. No, okay. So wait, what was the first? Well, how old were you when you became a grandfather? Became a grandfather?
How old was I?
Yes.
So that happened like 2 years ago because he's
You
two.
have to come on my show. No, I have a
Okay.
show
All
called
right.
"Really, I'm a Grandparent."
Oh,
And
okay.
the requisite is you have to be in your 30s or 40s when you become a grandparent the first time. Okay, you're my first
Ditto.
guest for the year. Okay,
All right.
that's,
Yeah.
that's all we're talking
Yes.
about. So I'll save all these other questions for that then, because I'm like,
Okay.
wait a minute, I did not know that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my popular show on
The,
young grandparenthood.
and the thing about it, again, most people will say, "Oh, stepkids" or whatever. I'm not with it.
No,
They're my kids.
yep.
I've raised them from 12, 9, and 7.
Oh
They
yeah,
are
yeah,
now
yeah. Very
what,
good.
20. Lyle just turned 20, 94 to 2000, 20 some odd, like over
Yeah,
25
yeah.
the other day.
You are.
And then Cyan, the mother of Abel, she's 24 and married, living in Bakersfield. Then Evan, he's here and he'll be 22 this year. And then bringing up the rear is Owen, and he'll be 14 in September.
So
So there's
I want to ask you. Okay, so you're married, okay, grandkids, kids, okay, grandkids. Um, what? Okay, so now what? Because you grew up multicultural,
yeah.
multiracial. We'll say that multicultural, multiracial. What is your wife's ethnic background?
So I thought I was cultured. Nope, nope, not with my wife. My wife looks almost more Melanesian than I. She looks like she could be an island goddess, and to me, she is. But she's got there's Irish, there's Native American, Cherokee, there's a Filipino, there's Puerto Rican, as well as Tejano, the native people of Texas. So she's got all of those there. And then for my dad, and then me, it's there's Irish. Like literally, my my paternal grandmother's father was from downtown Dublin,
Okay, very
Joel
good.
Foster,
He's all
right?
down. He's all
And
downtown Dublin. Okay,
yeah,
right.
and I mean, like, met him in '99 in what was it, New Albany, Mississippi, and despite living for 40 years with his African descendant of slave, you know, kids and grandkids and all that, whatever, he still had his fire red hair and downtown Dublin accent, right? Then there is, so there's that. Then my dad's obviously the African side, right? And then my mom's, a Polynesian. So you've got Tongan, you've got, a little bit, a tinge of Chinese and stuff like that. So we're kind of a unique bunch. So
Oh,
our
well,
kids are the model UN
right. No,
essentially.
exactly. What I wanted to ask you though is, um, in terms of your wife, like, did you ever feel, because you come from strong cultures within that, was there a thing like you have to be with a Fijian girl or a black girl or was there any of that for you or no?
Yeah, no, 100%. So my mom, I don't think she cared so much, right? Because I mean, she, came from Fiji and then married, a African descendant of slave, gentleman that's my father, right? So my mom, not so much, right? I know my mom's family, they essentially were like, for all the men in our family, once they graduate high school, go to Fiji, right? But Fiji is undefeated in terms of you going there nice and spry, young man, warm blooded and everything, and then you come back 3 years later with a wife and a kid. Undefeated.
I
Undefeated.
love it. I love it.
Right? So I was like, no, no, right? But then my dad, very, my dad was and it's crazy because I was actually brought up as a Nichiren Buddhist, right? So that also might have, you know, my mom didn't care. My mom didn't care. But with my dad, he was at times, quarter part Nation of Islam, quarter
Okay.
part pro black, so like, I think for him it was important. And for that, I think it might have skewed me not to marry my own. But then again, what the heck is my own anyway? Like,
I know. I was just curious. I mean, 'cause I'm saying we come from. Oh, hello, Demo. You joined us. Hi, Demo. And Kirsten is still in here. No, I just wonder because we come from time periods where it's
yeah,
like we got to be with and each side goes, well, James got to be with a Puerto Rican, or no, you got to be with
yeah,
the black, and then you got to be with,
yeah,
I mean, like
yeah.
Creole girl. You got to be with, it's always things that I want you to be with. I always think it's so interesting to me when the elders tell you.
So what's the funny and also the fact that my grand I grew up on the West Coast for the most part, and my closest grandmother to me was in South Bend, Indiana. The other one was in Fiji. And so again, I didn't get any of it. If anything, whatever, my mom and dad deflected all of
Yeah,
whatever
and I love that.
we were supposed to do. But the funny thing, right before COVID kind of befell the world in LA, we were driving down Crenshaw, right?
Sure.
Exactly. So we were at Crenshaw, like right by where Nipsey Hussle's place was, right?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah,
I'm right there.
and
Yeah.
and there is Nation of Islam members
Hmm.
in the sun, 3-piece suit, looking fresh to death, selling bean pies and final calls, right? So I'm driving. My wife is in the passenger seat. For the first time in my life, James, I did not get offered a final call or a bean pie.
Oh.
And I got it. I was like, oh. And my wife was like, what's happening? I was like, you're not black. So I messed it up. We're not purebred. So I messed it up. That's what happened.
Yeah.
But every time, like, my dad had, like, again, undefeated, always bought bean pies. There was that place on
So good.
Hillcrest.
They're so good.
They're
It's so
so
good.
great, right? But there was that place on Hillcrest, the Shabazz place and
Oh yeah.
whatever,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That had the muffins and everything. Would always get those. Always supported the culture. and everything. But that was the first time in my life
See,
that I was denied. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, right
yeah.
on.
Chemo says, I love the wrestling videos on According to Woods, the interviews.
Oh, thank you, good sir.
It's a chick. Devo.
Oh, good
Devo,
mademoiselle.
yes. I'm saying your name right. She's a big fan of all the wrestling stuff, so I know that. I think she
You're
knows
incredible,
soap.
my dear.
Yes, I think she
Incredible,
knows
my
some of the
dear.
soaps, I think. It's really weird. The wrestling soap worlds mingle sometimes. It's really interesting.
Oh, pro wrestling is the male melodrama. It is. It's the
No,
male soaps.
don't say that because Flobo Boy says he hates that analogy. He told me.
Uh, I don't. I like what I like. I'm Mikey. He likes it. He really likes it. If I like something, I don't care. I mean, you're talking to a guy that when I first heard like the first Black Backstreet Boy song, I was like, I want this for Christmas. I want this album for Christmas. I didn't know. I heard it on Kiss FM with Rick Dees. I didn't know what it looked like, right? And
Big in the
yeah,
morning.
right. And
Yeah.
essentially, I open up the Christmas wrapper. Here's a Sugar Ray. Here's a Smash Mouth, whatever. And then I get to this one, and it's like five guys with water cascading down with their shirts like this.
Yes.
So I just
Yeah.
went like, I looked over at my sister, like, here, Mar, take that, and she did, and that I think that ushered in like a boy band era for my sister because she's into boy bands and all that stuff now. So
Well, see, I was a Spice Girls fan, so I went that direction.
I like the Spice Girls, but I like the
Which
Spice
one was yours?
Girls.
I met Mel B. I met Scary Spice. She's really pretty.
Okay, yeah, I was more of a Sporty Spice. Sporty Spice.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like Ginger. I like red hair, so I was a Ginger Spice fan.
No, 100%. But I mean, Sporty, out of all of the gals or whatever, like, I mean, Posh was like, okay, Posh.
Yes.
But then
Right.
Posh was Posh, where you had to, you're talking to a guy when, prom was coming around, right? I
Yeah.
think we were living in a motel. We were living in a motel on Century, right? And people were like, I'm going to get limos for my date or whatever. The only reason why I got into prom was because I had a pact with Mr. Velach, the counselor, that if Lott Velach, if I graduated, on time, because I was smart, but I was like, you know what, I'm too smart for you, so screw it. I'm not gonna expel my knowledge here. But he was like, you graduate, I'm paying for your graduation and your prom. So I was like, okay, challenge accepted. So that's the only reason why I went to prom. Um, Otherwise, I would have went with ROTC because I, basically was doing it, every year before that. But so for me, the fact of like Sporty Spice and the cost or whatever, like I was not about that at that age, right? I was just like, so Sporty seemed like somebody that I could hang with, that we could go out for burgers at Charlie's, nachos at Charlie's, burgers at Astros, and it'd be good, right? And that's the ABCs of Inglewood. I mean, Astros, Bravos, Charlie. Anybody that tells you different isn't from Inglewood.
I totally agree. I mean, I totally agree.
Right?
I know. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I was at Astros the other day, so I was thinking.
Yeah, and I mean, and a honorable mention for Brawley Hut. So you got to show love for Brawley Hut.
When I saw
has,
went there for an episode last season, I was like, oh, Brawley Hut.
Yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, so I'm not about the poshness. I like to have fun. If you have a velvet rope, I'm gonna be over here, and the party's gonna be over here. Screw what you're doing over there beyond the velvet rope. I don't want it anyway. I don't want it.
Okay, so as we wrap this, I can talk to you forever, but as we wrap this up, I want to ask you this parting message. What would be your message to other men of color who want to be content creators? Just like, what's the general message you would have for them?
Do it. Just do it. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, and I borrowed it, from Nike, but just do it. You're talking to a guy that, again, I didn't get credentials. I snuck into shows, or people snuck me in. One, right? I literally get the best phone on the market at the time, because if I don't get credentials, I'm getting the interview on my phone. That's that's it. You know, when you compare equipment and everything, one of the reasons why I go live, I hate editing. I hate.
Yeah,
Thankfully for StreamYard, yeah, for StreamYard, all I got to do is press a button, runs my promo, blah blah blah, answer questions, what have you, and I've become good. Imagine how horrible I would be if I didn't go live. How many outtakes? How many things that I would cost a production company if I didn't go live, right? So you get it right the first time, and that's it, and it's in the can, what have you. Do it, because you can try and keep up with the Joneses. You can get the DLSR camera. You can get the Shure SM7Bs. I've got two of them. Don't use it. This $20 microphone on Amazon works just as well, right? I didn't have this laptop that I'm speaking to with until after July, August of this year, last year, right? So again, you can think that, oh, I need this equipment, I need this to get started or whatever. No, you have everything that you need right there in front of you. Look in the mirror. That is all you need. That is the thing that is going to separate you from the rest of the pack. That is the thing that is going to be your standard bearer. If nothing else, you strip the laptops away, you strip the microphones away, the important guests, the not important guests, the people that think you're interesting, the people that don't think you're interesting, the viewers, the subscribers, the followers. You strip all away, it's you at the end of the day. So you are the best you that you could be. You were talking about being, emulating the success of Byron Allen and many others that have done before you. But you, James Lott Jr., are the best James Lott Jr. that you could be. And I think that beats anybody else on any given day, even on your worst day. So I say, if you want to be a content creator, if you want to be an astronaut, if you want to do coding, whatever it is you want to do, you can do it right now. And of all of the horrendous year that we just had, right? People said, oh, if I had the money or if I had the time. Well, guess what? The reality of the matter is we had both of those in 2020 if you didn't die of COVID or what have you, right? So essentially, what is determining the money, the time that is there? It is up to you to make the most of any opportunity that comes your way. That is it. That is it. And that's all it's ever going to be. That's all it's ever going to be. So again, just do it. I believe in you. Whoever you are that might be listening to it, that might need to hear this, I believe in you. That's one person. Now you have to believe in you. That might be even harder than me believing you, than James believing you, that everybody watching this believing you. That that might be harder. I had to come there myself. But again, strip everything away, it's you. The equipment will come, the sponsors will come, the guests will come. Again, the According to Woods podcast didn't exist until July. I'm 300 some odd episodes in because of the cultivation of relationships that I made in the last 4.5 years. You, nobody's going to replicate the work. Nobody's whatever. It's all you. You can't worry about, getting an editor, somebody doing this for you. None of that. If it's just you, what you got? You take inventory of what you have there and figure out the best way to highlight it, and that's all you ever need.
I love that. And I mirror that completely. Thank you, Adam Woods, for being on my show. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
My pleasure. Tell people where they can find you and all your goodness.
I am According to Woods on everything, YouTube, Facebook. Well, actually, Facebook is According to Woods. YouTube is According to Woods. It's Adam K. Woods on Twitter. Instagram's According to Woods. Yeah, so According to Woods on everything. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I kind of talked in a circle, but that's what I do.
According to Woods, folks, just look it up. He's there. I will post it thing. He's according to Woods. That's what he goes by. I didn't know he had a first name until later. Okay, and
absolutely. Most people don't. I go by, if you know me, you call me Woods. Adam?
Who's that? Who that is? Who that is?
Who that is?
Okay. It is. Just my baby daddy. Okay, so I am James Lott Jr. Of course, I have JLJ Media's on every streaming service you can think of, every platform. It is my online network, JLJ Jr. Follow, subscribe. There's a button down here somewhere. Thank you. I love that. There's a button somewhere. I have over 35 shows that are going concurrently. So just check them out, from soaps to Star Wars, everything in between. Just everywhere. Just kind of your thing. Tomorrow I am live. If you're watching this now or tonight, Monday at 3 p.m., it's me and Jack Farmer and our show. James Lott Jr. is the farmer. Jack Farmer is the DJ. And we're going to talk about what is R&B. That's going to be our topic. So join us live at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, talking about what is R&B. We're doing this in honor of Martin King Jr.'s birthday tomorrow. I said I want to be talking about black stuff. We're going to talk about something black and see what me and Jack Farmer come up with. It should be really, really good. And later this week, I'm doing another Extra Connections Live with Jim Alexander. So it should be very interesting. We've never done a show together. And so our personalities together will be very interesting. I'm very excited about that. That should be coming up so soon. And the regular show, Extra Connections, is released every Wednesday. My last one is with a Republican, a Black Republican, my friend, Dr. Christopher Metzler. And we have a great conversation. He's a friend of mine, actually. We have a great conversation, and we come to a meeting of the minds. So check that out on all streaming services and GLJ Media, of course. And where can you follow little old me, where James Lott Jr. is sold, at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms, including TikTok. Follow me on TikTok. I'm a star on there or some shit like that. But follow me there too. I'm doing everything. But everyone, please, this week, please be safe, stay on alert, know your surroundings, but have compassion and try. And let's get through this week safely as we can, please. And not only wear a mask, but wash down surfaces. That's very important too. See you next.